Well, we're out here this morning. It's the 31st day of January down here in southern Iowa. An exceptionally unusual January at that. Yesterday the temperature was 53 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no snow, and I can push this screwdriver down in the ground. There's actually no frost in the ground at this time of the year. And what we're going to do is create some natural food sources. I watched some deer hunters, I reckon the other day, they had a forestry machine in the timber knocking down timber, and they immediately showed up with 50-pound bags of cracked corn that they were pouring in piles on the ground, setting game cameras up. That told me they didn't know a whole lot about the digestive tract of whitetail deer. That corn wasn't needed. That new wood that they had on the ground would be their best food source. But to each their own. And what we're going to do is, in the spirit of Aldo Leopold, as a conservationist, the axe and the saw will create more deer food and better quality than bringing in a foreign substance such as corn and dumping it in a pile and putting the stress on a deer of all of them congregating into that one pile. And that's a pretty stressful situation. Plus it's pretty, it's not the best thing to do, because you've gravitated a substantial amount of animals into one area. Being whitetail deer aren't inoculated at birth, which is livestock are, you're highly risking the spread of chronic wasting disease. Plus you put them in an unnatural environment, all bidding to get into that pile. So I'm going to show you a few things here. Number one, there's fresh deer poop, and there's a lot of it around here. We don't have to walk far. I've just walked, let's see, from this pile here we walk 1-2 yards, and there's more of it heavily laden on the ground. And why is that? It's because if you notice, you see the green growth in this picture. That's what the deer have gravitated to. It's brand new growth, whether it be grasses, the watercress, or whatever. They've gravitated into these open areas, and antelope will do the same thing. They will graze where the wind sweeps the prairie. Same as deer. There's more deer poop. It's all over in here, but spread out. But they have gravitated into this green grass area at nighttime, and they are grazing on this grass. We're going to feed them from the top down, and by that I mean the top of those elm trees have got small buds on them right now, so they're alive, and it's a fine time to be in the woods with a chainsaw or axe. And we're going to take the tops of those trees down and bring them down to the ground level, and then we'll set some cameras up and see the browsing pressure, that new growth up there that the deer will come in and nip off. So like I said, the food is up there also, a natural food. You don't need to be bringing foreign substance into your timbers if you know how to manage it, because that'll be the number one go-to right there. That's what the deer's digestive tract is engineered for, and they're ready to eat that. They just can't get up that high. So we're going to bring those tops of those trees down, because I just wanted to do some tree clearing, and some of these trees, it's time for, I don't want them where they're at. So let's get to cutting the trees down. Yeah, and I know there's probably people out in that crowd going, cutting more trees down. Well, I tell you what, those are elm trees, and they basically are the walking dead. They'll grow up so tall, and then here in Iowa they die at a rapid pace. So you're just doing some preventative maintenance right now, because you can see that dead limb on that one right there. They're, like I say, Dutch elm disease went through this area when I was a kid and just wiped out thousands and thousands of elm trees. So this is not a food source tree like an oak. You know, it has no value really. It's just taking nutrients out of the ground. Now I'm going to show you what we got here for a new food source. Right there. All this, as I break this off, you'll see how soft that is and how green it is right there. Those deer, as I pull that back, there it is. That's alive. Those deer are going to come in and they'll eat the tips of them all off. And what better food source as a natural food source? And we'll drag this tree over, and then when we drag it over, we'll keep it so it'll disperse the deer out. They won't be consuming it in one pile of a foreign substance brought into their environment. All these are just budding out, as you can see. They'll nip them off, and what we'll do is we'll set a camera up and document that to prove the point. So I'll get it hooked on here and drag it away a little bit. Now what we'll do is set a camera up here on one of these trees and document on how much browsing they get. Now if it doesn't get none, it'll prove me wrong. If it gets something done, then we'll learn something together. So let's get on sawing this limb off over here. There you go. More natural deer food laying on the ground. Open this area up, get better grass. And like I said, you can see the dead limbs in this tree. That one's live. But now what we created is an abundance of natural deer food. Let me walk you over here. All this is, like I said, that tenderness on there, you can break that, pure green. They'll nibble that off. Usually, if you have an ice storm, it really enhances this. That's really good. After an ice storm, you can see where Mother Nature tops their own trees. But you can see the new growth on it. Here was the year prior, and here was last year's growth. This is what they're going to consume. And we'll document that. This item is your #1 food source generator in the winter, whether you be up north, Midwest, or whatever. Basically, this chainsaw takes the place of Mother Nature's ice storms. Back in 08, I believe, we had an ice storm down here in Clark County that brought numerous treetops down. The woods were chock full of deer. it was just phenomenal because they were finally getting those treetops to eat on. And like I said, Mother Nature does her tree topping with an ice storm or a windstorm, but a major ice storm in the winter is not all that bad because it does some tree topping, lets sunlight in nature's way. But to enhance it, leave the packaged products of dope-a-deer or feed-a-deer on the shelves in the big box store. You got plenty of natural forage out here. It won't harm the deer. Like I say, they transition over in a digestive tract. They're, number one, they are a browser, not a grazer. They can go both ways, but their number one food digestive tract is set up for a browser. That's why they can clip it. You can go through and see all the softwoods clipped off. That's deer food. Another nice thing about that is no matter if it snowed now, I don't care how, well, it'd have to have some hellacious snow because that stuff's going to be sticking up out of the snow. And that's what they're going to feed upon and gravitate to, and they'll be just fine. But all natural. As we gravitate over here just about 40 yards from where we cut those trees, you can see the tremendous green in that grass. And that's what those deer are foraging on. They're coming in here, getting out the desirables that they want. Not necessarily the grass, but there's little clovers that are growing down in there. And they're foraging on that. And this is a very, very unusual winter. Like I say, this is the 31st day of January, and you can see there's still moss growing underneath this tree. Or is it a moss? That could be the watercress right there, but bright green, and you can see it's been eaten on. It's all the tops have been eaten off of it. Now, if it did snow and cover this up, they'll have those treetops at their availability, and we're going to do some more treetop in here. So when I mow this, I don't get whacked in the face. So you're doing a couple things. Land management, creating a new food source naturally, and getting some of these lower tree limbs cut off so you can mow a little faster. Yeah, I'm going to take another tree out in a different location. Remember, I want to disperse this food source out. I don't want it all in one congregated area. So it's not too hard to go find undesirable trees that will serve a purpose. And you know, you'll cut them up and use them for firewood also once they're on the ground. So it's a win-win. That tree back there in the cedar it really has no value. There again, it's an elm tree, and I'd rather have the cedar tree for cover. And I'll pan around here in a minute and show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, that cedar right behind that, to me, is more valuable than that elm tree that'll eventually die. But as you notice, I got a different terrain growing here. And you want to have diversity in your landscape. This grass is, I think I mowed it one time, and you let it grow. It's all for, you know, the rabbits really flourish in it, gives them somewhere to hide from the predators from above. Plus it's just a whole different, takes on its whole different aura of its own. And I got these cedars around here that act as seclusion and break the wind also. So when you're doing your land management, try to, like, there's a nice windbreak. If you got a northwest wind coming, they can get in here out of the wind, and it works pretty good. And it also gives some seclusion. And like I say, with the tall grass, it just takes on, it's so much better and just gleaned off, mowed tight to the ground. But it doesn't have a whole lot of food value right now because it's so tall, and you can see there's no grazing going on it. But in the summertime it has its value. There you go. brand new food source. Plenty of browse on the top of those that the deer couldn't get to. Now keep in mind, in the northern, far north, this is really critical. Not so much down here, southern Iowa. But when you get up north, Michigan, Wisconsin, areas like that, that browse line gets so high that deer can't get it. And they can actually starve to death in that deer yard. They're not going to have that problem down here in Iowa, but they'll still give a cheap natural food source. Chainsaw equals ice storm. Now here's something. Yeah, we were just talking about this area being sort of seclusive and, you know, long grass and stuff. Well, I turned around here and there's the remains of a deer stuck up underneath those cedars. It must have sought shelter in this area and probably was wounded and succumbed to death there. Wow. And like I say, you can see the cover there, so it was completely out of the elements. But you want to leave areas like that, you know, sort of ungroomed, and it has its attractability. Well, here we are, February 4th. We cut this tree down, I believe, on January 31st. And I told you we were going to bring the new growth down. For you new guys and some of you old guys, you don't need Deer products or corn in a bag. Deb zooms in here, comes in here, you can see the tips of every one of these have been browsed upon. Remember I told you that new growth, that's what they were seeking? Well, every one of these tree limbs, all those buds have been nipped off. And there's still plenty of new growth, they'll still come back. But this is what you should be doing. Not going to the counter in the big box store and buying whatever gimmickry the so-called pro-staff people out there are trying to make a profit from your, not stupidity, but your lack of knowledge. They're preying on that. Learn the foods of the whitetail deer, when's seasonal and when's not. You don't need to be buying that corn in a bag when you got plenty of natural deer browse. And like I said, the chainsaw is the ice storm. Bring that to the timber. As Aldo Leopold, the rifle and the axe. This is what creates the food. It's right here. Only problem was, Deb pans up in that tree. It was that high up in the sky. And an ice storm would bring it down. But a chainsaw will bring it down also. And as you look at those videos, they're not the biggest deer, but they're deer. You're in here feeding them nature's way. And once this stuff is cropped off, they'll move on to a new food source. They won't keep congregating to the same pile of corn. That's what's so neat about the 4 seasons in the deer world. You've got to stay on top of your quarry and understand what they're gravitating to. And it's so rewarding to do that. And I just thought I'd pass this along. So you're surrounded with plenty of food if you just know what you're looking at. And a lot of people out there, unfortunately today, can't see the forest for the trees. And so they're being taken advantage of by these so-called experts on supplemental feeding. And right here is plenty of natural supplemental feeding. There's another tree we nipped off, and you can see it also. They get down here, all that growth right there has been nipped off, nibbled on, and you can see in the pictures of the camera we had to, I don't know if you can see the camera's back there on that cedar tree, We're about 10 yards from that. But you can see the natural foraging. Yeah, the reason I make these videos like this is to aid and cut through all the BS that's out there. Well, let's put it in a non-typical way. The bullshit that's out there on the marketing today. A lot of new guys are just, their heads a swirl with what should I use, and it seems like the industry each day is trying to dumb the hunter down and take advantage of his naiveness or just plain ignorance of the whitetail deer. And so if they put on a certain bow manufacturer's shirt and strut around and act profile that they're a knowledgeable, highly knowledgeable person in public, they'll pick up a certain amount of followers and they'll push product. But I'm here to level the playing field. You don't need all that crap. Go out, trial and error on your own. You'll learn through your mistakes. That's the non-typical way. I didn't learn all this stuff overnight, and I sure didn't learn it from some so-called pro staff person up on a stage ranting about the newest this and that. Mother Nature's got it all out here. All you got to do is take the time and the effort to go and investigate and challenge yourself to self-teach yourself. Then you'll have a solid foundation. Well, that's enough of my rambling. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it, because that's what my main goal is. There's no profit. I'm not profiting from any of this. Too many people seek profit in something that's been going on for decades, centuries. Hunting. What the hell's new about hunting? Go to the field. So that's it from the non-typical Norwakian.